All right, so welcome everyone to the next installment of the GVI Workshop Series, Ask an Advisor is today's session. I'm Mike Lackenpora, a Research and Policy Advisor here at NNSC. And just a little bit of background on NNSC for folks who are just joining us for the first time, wanting to learn more about us. NNSC, or the National Network for Safe Communities, is an action research center based at John Jay College for Criminal Justice here in New York that implements proven strategic interventions to reduce violence. NNSC's mission is to reduce violence, build trust, and transform public safety in partnership with communities around the world. So as part of this workshop series, we've been learning a lot about the group violence intervention, which we'll get into a bit, but we touch on a lot of the work that NNSC has done as an organization and is doing going forward. So this workshop series specifically is meant for new, interested, and returning partners to this work. So the National Network is a network of communities, cities, jurisdictions, towns, counties, all around the country and the world who work with us to implement these strategic interventions and violence reduction strategies. And these sessions are meant for partners who are new to the work, who are not currently working with us or are just coming online working with us and are interested in learning more about how we work and kind of the foundations of our work. It's a place to learn about and discuss violence prevention, focused deterrence, and new innovations in the field of violence prevention. In each session, you'll hear from experienced NNSC staff and our partners and participate in roundtable conversations. We're able to ask questions and engage with us, particularly in today's session. And they're open to any and all who are interested in exploring GVI approach to violence reduction in their communities. So community-based organizations, social service providers, law enforcement, support and outreach workers, municipal workers, academics, anyone who wants to learn more about this work or is interested in this work is welcome to join these sessions. So if you've been joining these sessions so far, or you watched our recordings and slide decks, which are on our website that we'll share at the end of the session, you've been hearing us discuss this GVI partnership, which we see as a three-legged stool with law enforcement and legitimacy as one leg, community moral voices as another, and support and outreach as the third leg, with the project manager as the seat on top that kind of brings it all together and makes sure that the strategy is working in concert and with fidelity to the way in which it's most effective and efficient. Today, what we're going to do is a little bit different. We're not doing the normal presentation and deep dive like we've done into each of those facets of the stool before, but rather we're hosting an Ask an Advisor session. So we brought together colleagues from all over, my colleagues from all over NNSC, who are here to field questions and help troubleshoot and talk you all through kind of getting up and running, doing this work. If you're trying to learn more about this work, if you're trying to get funding for this work, if you're beginning this work and are running into roadblocks, any and all questions, we want to hear from you and help you as you're trying to launch or bolster these new violence reduction strategies in your community. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We'll go back into the main room and we'll just start answering questions. So if folks want to raise their hands or put questions in the chat, we'll just start answering questions one by one. Any and all questions about kind of getting these strategies going in your community. And yeah, so just raise your hand or put something in the chat and we'll get started.
You know, I'll ask a question, right, Mike?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'd like to know from the people that are here that have joined, hey, have you been working the strategy? Have you been doing it over 6 months or have you just started? I'm just interested in knowing that, and then that could lead into some good answers for the staff if you ask them.
Right. So yeah, if anyone wants to jump in, by all means.
Good afternoon. Hey Dale, Michael, this is Ernest Brown in Pine Bluff. We are in year 2, and we're working it, and I think Reverend Crumpton say we're 188 days without a juvenile homicide, but we're struggling on our adults. And so I wanted to get on, just get some ideas from some other folks on, because I do the juvenile docket and just ways that we can really work on engaging our 18 to 35-year-olds.
Congratulations on the juvenile lack of violence. That's pretty awesome.
Hey, Lori, I didn't know you were on. Hey.
Yes, hello. Can you talk a little bit about the adult challenges that you're facing? I mean, obviously violence, but do you know anything, like, are we talking about back and forth between groups, or just kind of, has it erupted more in the summer?
You're on mute, Judge Brown.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was talking. We had, I think the community got really engaged when there were so many young people that were dying, and we haven't had a whole, I mean, it's been better overall, even with the adults, but I think if we had that same level of focus and involvement with the adults like we do with the juvenile, it would be better. So I give you an example, and I think I shared this with Dale. Uh, Reverend Crumpton and I went over to a local church for a prayer breakfast, and we kind of were telling where we were, what was going on, and the conversation pivoted to the juveniles, to the kids, and they wanted to help with the youth. And I said, well, we appreciate that. We need that, but we really need somebody just to take up this 18 to 30-year-old group. We can do some meetings and things like that. And so that's what I'm finding is that it's just been more of a interest with the youth and getting some entity, agency, I think like in Davenport, the Family Resources, somebody to say, okay, we're going to match what they're doing with the adults in Jefferson County or Pine Bluff. I think that's kind of been the struggle, and I don't know if that's something to expect nationwide. I know it started out being more adults than juvenile. I think we did it kind of reverse because of my involvement, but that's kind of been our struggle here, to be honest with you.
So can I jump in, Lori? Because I'm gonna, right? So we had this conversation yesterday on their revising call. So I think for the probation and the parole clients, I think we may want to utilize more probation and parole in those instances where the probation and parole agent is going to the house, doing their monthly meeting, explaining what's available to the clients through services. And that gives the probation and parole agent an opportunity to do their visit, offer services, and then offer it for the whole family, and see what the needs are. And sometimes the parole and probation agents could have a little more conversation with the clients. I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels about that. And then I also felt like if your two top people, Warrior and Thompson, Judge, were going to be out of town on a peer visit, the probation and parole, along with the sheriff's department, because they're very fortunate there. They have the sheriff's department that is also working with them, could be going out as well and doing custom notifications and talking to people and offering services in that specified group of individuals in that age range, which I told them to really look at their problem analysis and look at their groups and see if they could find some. So that was some of my suggestions. I mean, I can go on, but I'm going to shut up so other people can talk. Now, see, if you don't talk, you're going to have to listen to me the whole time. So,
Well, Deb, I was going to ask, just following up on the question about the community engagement when it was about youth violence, re-engaging or getting that same level of engagement or similar level of engagement for the adults. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, you know what, Michael, I'll tell you, I think that it was a tragedy. I think people viewed that very tragic, so many young lives being lost. However, I think that we have to try to get out more and say, even though someone might be a little bit older, and 19 is not that old. I mean, I'd love to be 19 again, but
All right, I gotta walk down the steps. Tell me to reverse and not do it.
so what I would say is this, is that I think we need to make sure that we're putting the same type of value on that person's life. You know, a lot of people think, well, they're already grown, they should know better, but not everybody knows better. So you want to try to do some things and let people see that their life has as much value and that they're part of the community. That might be one thing that a lot of those individuals don't think, is that they don't feel that they're part of the community. As us that work in this work every day know, a lot of people don't think that. So that's, I think people see tragedy versus grown people that should know better. And so they don't always know better. And we also know that our clients, especially if they're group involved, resolve most of their disputes with violence. So that's another segment that we would have to look at, but let me be quiet. Right?
You know, I was just thinking, Deb, and I wanted to layer onto that. I think, you know, it's easy to want to get behind kids because we all feel good about it. But I think, you know, from a practical standpoint, one of the things that often helps bring the community piece on board is, you know, talking about how it impacts the community broadly, you know, because I always feel like when you're asking someone to do something for you, you got to kind of put out there what's in it for them. So I think when you talk about the financial cost to a community of people getting shot and going into the hospital and all of that, you know, and there are statistics, and I don't have them in front of me right now, about what the cost is for every shooting to a community. And then also, you know, even mentioning the fact that, you know, there's a lot of unintended targets. And, you know, the reality is that sometimes those bullets don't hit the two people that are bickering, but they hit, you know, a child, a little child, or a grandmother, or, you know, and I think when you put it like that about, you know, the risk of the community and the cost of the community, sometimes that's enough to kind of push the community a little bit to be like, hey, we do have some skin in the game here. Chelsea?
I just kind of wanted to piggyback off of what Deb was saying earlier about, you know, the difference between how people perceive juveniles versus adults that are in this life, and, you know, the idea of the image of tragedy or, you know, circumstances versus you're grown, you should know better. And I think one of the keys here is patience, you know, which is really hard to find. But that relentless engagement of, I'm not giving up on you, even if, you know, you may have given up on yourself at this point. The longer you're in this space, the longer it's going to take to come out of it. And so making sure that it's a consistent reminder of, hey, this isn't a carrot and stick idea. The offer is here, the olive branch is here, the hand is here, and for when you're ready to take it. Making sure that we're kind of patient with ourselves and kind of managing our own expectations when it comes to engaging this population too. Because we aren't in those shoes. And so sure, we're getting a different view of what this person's experiences might be, what their obstacles might be, but it looks way different in their shoes from their perspective. So kind of managing that and making sure we're cultivating patience when it comes to outcomes.
Thank you, Chelsea. That was a great jumping off point. Deanne, I see your hand is raised.
We've been working primarily with adults and are beginning to work with juveniles. And one of the concerns is it's so important, as we know, to get the families involved. what are some strategies that are working for you? Or what have you employed that seems to be working better in order to get the families engaged?
Deb,
That's open to anyone.
Deb, do you want to answer that question, or were you talking about the question prior?
I can answer that, and I have one other thing.
Perfect.
So the things that you can do, Deanne, first of all, is if you aren't doing custom notifications, those need to be done because the word custom is so vital. So when you go to the house, if the individual that you, let's say you want to go and you want to see John Jones, and John Jones is not home, but John Jones's family member is there, brother or sister, someone else who's an adult. So what you want to say to them is, we want you to give him this message. However, is there anything you need? Is there something that we can help you with? Is there someone in need of something? And then you also let the people know that this particular offer does not expire. It never expires. So sometimes it's been my experience in the years I've been doing this, that sometimes you get people who don't take the services, then 6 months later, they want to take the services. So it's like relapse and recovery. It's the same thing. The other thing I think, Deanne, what I want everybody on this call to remember this particular session is do not ask that individual to quit their group or their gang or whatever you want to call it. That's their social circle. Those are their friends. The only thing we're asking them to do is to stop the violence and put the guns down. That's what we're asking them to do. We're not asking them to leave their friends. We're not asking them not to talk to their associates because this is their social circle. They can do that on their own when they're ready, when they see that doesn't match up to a different lifestyle. But a lot of people want to try to get, hurry up, let's get this, let's fix this right away. You can't fix it right away. It takes determination and persistence, like Chelsea said. And so make sure that when you're talking to anyone, that you, even if the client calls you back and asks for something, say, oh, well, why have you on the phone? Does anybody else need anything? Is everything going okay? You can ask them all kinds of questions. I'm sure you have an assessment tool when you're asking people questions. So they may very well need food or need something else that they may be too embarrassed to ask you when you're there, but are not embarrassed to ask you over the phone. So those persistent type of questions and offers are really vital, really, really, really vital when you're doing those notifications.
Thanks, Deborah.
If I can add too, because we followed Deb's plan for that. Initially, we thought we would be doing call-ins, but the custom notification, she gave us the assignment that was after GVI University in March to do 168 custom notifications. So I think they did all of those, and they were partially adult and juvenile. And I think that one-on-one was great. And then the juvenile court is engaged, and our partners are engaged with it, whether it's DHS, et cetera. So we kind of built that, I guess, structure up first just because of my involvement with it. But now we're going back and needing to build that same infrastructure for the adults like we have for the juveniles. But we know the dates, we know how many days from a homicide, we know when there's somebody come up with a gun charge, we just kind of really engaged on that, and we need to have that same value. And the young lady that spoke earlier, I didn't get her name, she's so right that we need to let people know all life matters, not just the young people, but if we're having the 19, 20, and 21, that's also a loss in the community, and we need to offer services to them. And I did do as Deb instructed, met with my other colleagues and handle the adult docket. And so I think we're working at it. It's just maybe taking a little bit longer than I would like. So.
Thanks.
Thank you both. Any other questions? Again, feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand. And I could throw out a broad one while folks are thinking more specifically. But for folks who are getting up and running or have recently gotten up and running, what were some of the obstacles or biggest hurdles that you had to face or you're kind of in the process of facing as you're trying to launch this sort of strategy in your community? I know we were just talking a bit about trying to get engagement for adults after a youth program, but things like that. What are some of the obstacles you've been facing?
Now I know Lisa from Cedar Rapids has some stuff to say. You got to help the people out, Lisa.
Hey Deb, how are you? So for us, I would say when we first started, I would say the biggest challenge was getting the families to engage in services because we didn't have that. And majority of our violence were coming from the youth, the juveniles. So being able to make that partnership. So when we did do customs, like Deb said, it was for anybody that was in the household that wanted to engage in services. So what I did was I started the mothers group so I can start having these conversations with moms to see like how come no moms are involved in the things that's going on in their kids' life. So we sitting here talking to these kids, which are juveniles, but we never have a parent show up. Like, how is this gonna work if mom don't know that these are some goals that we setting for this child and she has no idea what's going on? So to be able to bring the parents in, that helped out a whole lot. And I would say another one of the challenges that we had was employment. So we partner with the city, we partner with the different factories, the McDonald's, Walmart, depending on the age of the kid or the family member. We had to make sure we had a salary for all age ranges. So if we're working with an adult and it's hard for them to find a job, because we have that partnership with a park district, they still can make a livable salary and they will hire our clients. So I think it's all about using your resources and just go out there and ask, because they're either gonna say yes or no. And 9 times out of 10, when they find out what type of work you're doing and the population that you serve and they're trying to help, it's a better chance you're gonna get a yes, because they be so surprised and they be so grateful, like at least somebody's out here trying to help these individuals go on the right path. So I would say just keep making connections. Any connection that you think that'll help your client population. We have a partnership with Matthew 25. So during the summer, like they work with our younger kids. So they can't get jobs that pay all this money, but they can work the whole summer and they do gardening and things like that through the whole summer. And they work 6 hours in the evening. So that's keeping them out of trouble. So by the time they get home, they've been in the garden all day. They want to take a shower, play their game, eat, and go to bed. So, and then just making sure you had the same thing for the older ones. Some of our clients, like, I know I don't want you out here at 1 o'clock. So we made sure when we had those partnerships, your shift that you're working is from 11 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning. So I know you're not out here because you're at work. So just being strategic when you placing your clients in these different positions and just keeping an open mind and have an option for everybody, whether it's the parents, whether it's the kids, the uncle, the auntie, the sister, the brother, just have those options and make sure you have those partnerships. So if they need daycare, you can call somebody. If they need transportation, you already know who you can call. Just making sure you have all that lined up.
And could I have a follow-up for you, Lisa, if you don't mind, for cities that, or people here that are representing cities that are just getting started or thinking about getting started, how can you talk a little bit about the timeline for how all of that came together? Like, what are we talking for you? Weeks, months? Paint the picture for folks so they might at least know what to expect based on, your experience in Cedar Rapids.
Okay. So for me, I really hit the floor running when I started. I worked really close with Deb, so Deb had a lot of good advice for me. And so for me, I would say when you have those, the governance committee is already set up. So everybody should be having a governance committee. So when you, whatever challenges that you have, you bringing those to the governance committee, because not only, they are part of this. So those city officials, law enforcement, and all these guys, government agencies, okay, we all have to work together to make this happen. So what can they put in place to make sure that these things are happening? So if it was me having to have a conversation with the mayor, like, okay, the city not open to giving our clients job, what can we do? So it really, I wouldn't say it didn't take long once I developed those relationships with the agencies. It was a matter of me literally setting up a meeting, going to meet with them. They came out, we did a presentation for the organization, and they was like, just send us a list of clients. So it's just a matter of you setting up a meeting and having those conversations.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's really helpful. And I think for folks that are newer to the space or to the work, the governance committee that Lisa's mentioning is really crucial. We can drop some information in the chat about that, but making sure that you have the, executive level partners across the necessary agencies and partnerships. So the three-legged stool that Michael mentioned, local government partners, having them form an executive committee or a governance committee that is overseeing all of this, so that when you're Lisa and you're getting no's, you could say, listen, but this is, I'm reaching these roadblocks, and I need some help, coming up with a new path or pushing through in a different way. It's really crucial.
Lisa, I'm Bessie Lancelin, and I'm Director of Clinical Services for Southeast Arkansas Behavioral Health. So in behavioral health, we work a lot with GVI and trying to make sure that what we can offer is at the table. But my question to you, you mentioned something about a referral form. Is there a form that when you meet with the family and there are children 0 to 3, for example, or they're 10 and 11, or there is an uncle there or grandparent, and they need different types of services, is there a form that would address little baby 3-year-old needs this, but grandmom needs this? Is there such an animal like that, so that if there's anything in my area that I need to be covering or that I know about, that information would be filtered over to me? I know the court, I know Judge Brown is going to let me know, but I'm just trying to get across the board.
Right. So
go ahead.
So when our outreach workers go out and they do a custom notification, they do an assessment. So this assessment tool that they have, it actually covers extended family. So if they have anybody else in the house, they always ask, okay, is there anything that mom needs? And 9 times out of 10, if it's a juvenile, mom is going to be there. So they'll ask mom directly, like, is there anything that we can help you with? So if she say, what Johnny was doing had BS and he haven't saw BS in 6 months, then we'll call the company that we work with, the organization, and we'll connect them straight to BS. And the cool thing about that is we also have like the mental health through Tanager, we partner with them. And the cool thing about that is regardless of our clients, whether they ages from 3 to 21, they service our clients. So, and they move them to the top of the list. So they would never go on the waiting list. So if we call, we always got that option, regardless of what it is, whether it's mother, the baby, anybody, they go to the waiting list. They go to the top of the list, because in that moment, that family is in crisis. So how can we help? We had one individual, we went out to do custom. We noticed the baby, she was like maybe 3, 4, whole teeth rotten. So I'm like, did anybody address the issue that this baby teeth is falling out of her mouth and she's so young? So we went back and we connected her with dental services to make sure that the baby's needs was being met. So working with the families, you're going to always identify more and more needs. The more you work with them, the more they get comfortable, the more stuff going to start to surface. It's going to start to surface. So you're going to think you getting it, and then it's going to be something else, So just making sure that they are, the outreach workers are making sure they are filtering that information to who it needs to go to. to make, you know what I'm saying? So if they have an assessment tool to make sure that it identifies everything that you can think, anything that you could think of that your clients might need help with, you want that assessment to be able to cover it, whether it's mental health, dental, insurance, food assistance, housing, you want it all listed. So whatever box is checked, when you and your team going over it, those referrals could be sent out.
Exactly, and that was what I'm trying to ascertain. Okay,
Uh,
okay, thank you.
Bessie, hi Bessie, how are you? It's nice to see you again.
It's good seeing you too,
Yeah,
Deb.
there is a card that we developed here when I was a project manager, and I believe Laura, you might know what this card is, where we would use it at the call-in, but you could also use it starting out, and it's got the name, boxes checked, what do you need? And I actually printed up those cards myself off the printer and then used a paper cutter and cut each one individually. I can send that to Judge Brown and he could share that with you if you wanted to look at that particular. It's not very big, but it's enough information that you should be able to find out if there's some things the family needs, you know, like an ID, work, medical, dental, mental health services. There, yeah. See, look at Lisa's got it because I sent it to her.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, well, that was what I was, okay. All right, and then you just share that with whoever's on the list, who's the you know, who can provide that need, for example.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
So literacy and things like that, because we have so many people in our community who do not read and write well, including young people. Okay,
Right.
so many times they don't ask because they don't know how to ask. You see what I'm saying? And so sometimes, you know, I just left a meeting with Dr. Maddox, who, and I'm sure that Judge Brown knows her. And when one of the things that she says that is that in her field, in mental health and all of that, a lot of times she starts with sleep with young people. So I'm wondering, is sleep on that list? Do you sleep well? You know,
Yeah.
because a lot of kids, they won't tell you up front, you know, it may take them 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 15 times before they really tell you what's going on. So I just wondered if you had like a little checklist or something.
Well, you can make that list. I mean, I can, Lisa's got the card. I can send the card and you could fashion it to the things that you'd like to see on that. That's what's so great about this. You can fashion it to say all those different things like, are you sleeping well? Do you get enough to eat? I mean, those things that, you know, you add that we take for granted, but other people that, you know, they're struggling. So I get where you're coming from, and I can send that, or Lisa could send it, because I mean that's where she got hers from. So I understand. So we could do that. I could do that for you. Certainly. I could, you know, get it done by end of business tomorrow for you.
Okay, Judge Brown, with
Better
that,
onto everybody.
is that okay with you?
Oh, yeah, that's great, Ms. Lance. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I thought you were also going to ask that question about the hospital, because we want to get the hospital more involved with the shootings. Do you want to ask that as well? Because we had the young man that was your client
Yes.
that we didn't find out until 2 or 3 months later that he had been injured. So
My connection's a little unstable, so I turned off my camera. I hope you can hear me.
We can.
Okay. You know, another thing is thinking about the difference between adults and kids, and some of the things that Deb was asking around, you know, do they have enough to eat? And also, like, are you going to school? You know, that's a big one for kids. But, you know, and another one I think that's important to be asking is, you know, do you feel safe? Because, you know, when a lot of people, when we're looking at the population that we're dealing with, they're people that we are saying they're most likely to kill or be killed. And if that's true, you know, we need to at least understand if they, you know, if their house is getting shot up and we come in there talking to them about jobs, we're missing the mark. We need to make sure that we're, you know, giving people what they need based on what they think they need and what they say they need, so that we're not, you know, inadvertently, you know, being tone deaf when we're trying to help people. I think that's a really important point to make. So, you know, I think we can certainly help with, you know, with questions or additional kind of intake. type of paperwork, but I think that, you know, broadly that, you know, the safety thing should also be a top priority.
I agree.
A question is follow up to Ms. Lanson's question because she works with the juveniles and the adults. Is there anything from anybody's experience that we could use with our behavioral health provider on that?
I would say you can always use behavior health with the population that we work with. It's just a matter of asking and let them see that it's okay. Because of the stigma that's been put on mental health with the population that we generally serve anyway. So just let them see, we actually, Tanager is a company organization that we partner with. So they had started like the therapists, they like mobile therapists, they go out with our outreach workers and they will actually do therapy at a park, in a house, they meet them wherever they at. If they comfortable doing it here at the office, they'll come here and they literally have therapy sessions and they do family therapy sessions and individual sessions. So it's just a matter of engaging the family and letting them know that it's okay. You know, sometimes it take a minute. So all our clients, when they come right in, they don't jump in and do therapy.
No.
Right. So I got one that I've been working with, he going on a year and he just not accepting services to do therapy, but it's okay. It's just something that we just keep working on until they ready to accept that service.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead. I was just
and
gonna
then
say,
as far
just
as
building trust. That's the
oh yeah,
main thing, you know, in
yeah,
any field like this, if people don't trust you, depending upon how you present yourself to them, you know, then they not, you know, I'm
exactly.
an old-time therapist, so I've been out like to people's homes and in the park and at the funeral home and all that, and at hospitals. But, you know, a lot of times there is a few mobile assessment teams in Arkansas, but there's not a mobile assessment to that degree in Pine Bluff or in Jefferson County. So, you know, a lot of people are not gonna do that kind of work, okay? But that's why I wanted to know if there was that tool that had like a referral form where somebody could start reaching out and then building relationships, because it is about trust, and they, you know, kind of have to see you, hear you, because they're reading me just like I'm reading them. Do you see what
exactly.
Okay. So,
exactly. And then I know I heard Mr. Brown say something about the connections with the hospital. The same thing. We set up a meeting with the hospital's administration team, and we went in and we did a presentation on what it looks like for us to work with a gunshot victim. That when they come into the emergency room, if we was notified, what does that look like? So once we had that orientation, we did a presentation for them. So now when they get a gunshot victim, we connect with Waypoint and they contact us. The hospital contact Waypoint and they also contact us as well and let us know that we got a gunshot victim. So we go out, we're the only ones allowed because of course the hospital is on lockdown, but they will let us in. And at that moment, if the family wanna accept services, because at this point we want to stop retaliation. So if we can get in at that moment, and we've been really successful with that, with them just like we like the comfort, you know, we go and we calm everybody down and we have those conversations. We understand, we get it, but what can we do to help? So, and when they see that you there to help them and it's nothing to put them in a situation or try to get information, because they get to talking about everything that happened. And first thing we say, we don't care about that. We just here to help you right now in this moment. What can we do to help you and your family? So, and then that just like changes the atmosphere. So just building those relationships as well. That give us a point where we can, when somebody do get shot, we ahead of it. So we don't want nobody to go out and retaliate.
So I'm Rachel. Hi. I'm just wondering, listening to all this, there are a couple of things that really stand out to me around the really intentional focus on treating a client like a whole person, and thinking about their universe, right? We talk about the ecosystem of violence prevention, but you could kind of make it really small and say every person has their own ecosystem. And just thinking about how much it is. It's hard. It's a lot of work. And one of the things that I think many of our sites that are able to be successful and sustainable with the work are able to do is, empower a specific person to be the lead to coordinate all of the supportive services and think about not just, what are you bringing to your specific clients, but thinking about how you can tap into some of those other community-based resources that might have a real overlap, but that maybe, you all don't know or wouldn't think to access. So, when it comes to youth, thinking about, taking a step back, we know there's often, intersections with victimization, and that a lot of young people that are at risk of shooting someone or being shot, right, might have experienced or witnessed violence in their home. And so thinking about, oh, there could be some community-based organizations that focus on domestic violence or intimate partner violence, and they have programming or services for young people, for young men, for young women. And that could be an additional layer, especially for that kind of 13 to 24 population. And again, just thinking about how we often put all of this on like a project manager. So one question was, thinking about whether there are cities here that have been able to think about having what we would talk about as a support and outreach coordinator, right? And whether sites here have had an opportunity to find ways to pull in the coalition of people that are doing the work that might be a little separate, but like really could support what you all are doing. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you don't have to build a thing that might already exist. Because that also makes me think about trust, because sometimes there's someone in the community that people might be talking to, and like that's really the provider, right? Like they really don't want to talk to anyone, but if this person says, you know what, we can get you SNAP, we can get you off your parents' case, we can set you up as an independent adult, and I'm gonna connect you to the person that I trust, that just makes such a big difference. So the two questions are, how do you all think about organizing support and outreach, and having that potentially, live with a person who doesn't have all the multiple responsibilities of also running your GVI work? And two, how are you thinking about pulling in other community-based orgs that might be able to offer something that, whether it's mental health services or behavioral health services, or, mentoring, right?
Rachel, I'll respond first. We saw that format in Davenport, and we have tried to implement that here. And it's the Whatever It Takes committee, I think, but they've met May and June. And Ms. Jackson is on, and besides the court staff and United Family Services, we hadn't had any of the other social service providers in place. And because I love that concept of that part of the three-legged stool working. So that was going to be one of my questions. I'm glad you brought that up. And it may be better because United Family Services is a community-based provider for youth and families. They don't so much deal with all of the adult referrals like housing and all of that. So we maybe should have thought about the behavioral health center or somebody else, maybe being that focal agency, because we have not had, that's been one deficiency. And Dale, I apologize, I didn't share that with you, but that we have not had good response from that.
Now, you know I'm not going for that one, so we're gonna have to work on that one, okay?
But you think maybe that we should have Miss Lancelin or Southeast as the lead resource agency? Because
Yeah.
UFS is more, I know you met them
Mhm.
in Davenport, but that maybe we should get an agency that's inclusive of adults and youth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think we can do that. I mean, we eventually can do that. We're just gonna take a little strategizing and we'll be able to do it. So I'm gonna try to drop this referral card in the chat. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm gonna try, okay? And
I
see
can
if
also
I can.
email it out to everyone, Deb, if that doesn't work, or in addition.
All right, or I'll just send it to you, Michael.
Yeah.
You can take care of it.
Yeah, I can
Thank
send it
you.
out to everyone after the session with the recording.
All right, thanks.
Folks have thoughts about Rachel's questions for the group or additional thoughts?
Okay, I was just gonna say to Rachel question, one thing that we did here was Crystal is our support, our violence prevention specialist. So she makes all those connections with any and every agency in Cedar Rapids, and she invites them every month to a support and outreach meeting. So it started off when we was doing it twice a month. So to get everybody engaged, and during that time, they get options to volunteer, sign up for customs, and talk about what they can bring to us, and vice versa. So I think that's a good thing to try to start that if you haven't already, like with all those agencies. And then at that point, nobody feels left out. Nobody feel like you reinventing the wheel, because you giving everybody the opportunity to come together and offer and provide services to the population that we serve. It started off a kind of, seesawy. And I had a conversation with Deb, and she was like, Lisa, get some coffee and donuts and just invite them all. She said, just invite them all. So we literally went through, from the state, we printed out a list of resources. We contacted every last person on that list and we invited them. We ended up with 54 providers that showed up to that meeting. So it's just a matter of just like really putting yourself out there and just like keep inviting them. Eventually they're gonna come. They're gonna show up. So I would suggest that just keep at it and just take it one day at a time. It's a process, but it definitely works.
Lisa, would you also mention and tell everybody when we talked about see, because a lot of times our clients don't experience certain things. So when we start going out there and asking in the community, maybe for free tickets for things, those new experiences are like therapy for them. I mean, seriously. So tell them about how you got some tickets for something. I said, just beg. That's all you gotta do is just beg. That's all you.
So we was on a call one day, and Deb was saying like how all these different agencies in the community, like they give back to the community, these different organizations and the things that they do. So it was just running in my mind when she said that. So I reached out to the Colonels, which is the Cedar Rapids baseball team. I sent the email with a letter saying that we're a nonprofit organization. This is the type of work we do. This is the population I serve. And I would love to be able to bring our clients to watch a baseball game. They never experienced this, So before I know it, I had 25 free tickets. So then I reached out to the racetrack, same thing. She gave us unlimited tickets because she said, if you need some more, just let me know. They'll be waiting for you at will call. So then they had the Globetrotters game up here as well. Same thing. I just reached out and they give us so many tickets. So now every year we get so many tickets to attend different events in the community. So it's just a matter of just like reaching out. Yeah, so it was cool because our clients really enjoyed it because half of them never been to, that was their first baseball game. First time ever seeing a race, especially the kids that steal cars. I made sure I had all of them go to the racetrack because I'm like, you can make a living driving fast. So, for them, they were so excited. So just connecting with and they get to have the conversations with the driver. I think that was just like blew them away. So just making those connections and getting them engaged and putting them in spaces that they think they can't be in or they wasn't allowed to be in. I think you see a different part of them. They help them become successful.
That's amazing, Lisa. Thank you for sharing that. And those anecdotes are great and inspiring. So thank you. Do folks have any more thoughts on what Rachel and Deb were just speaking about on the outreach component or other questions? We have a few minutes left. Again, if folks want to throw a last minute question in the chat or raise your hand, anyone have burning questions before we start wrapping up in a few?
Okay, I'll jump out here again, Michael. I know you. One thing I would suggest for everybody is that if you have other staff members that are working with you or outreach workers, divide up your site or your city or the areas you're working in and find out what community meetings are being held. Make sure your staff or yourself go to those community meetings. This is where you're going to meet the people on the ground, where the rubber meets the road, where people are working in their community to make it a better place, and how you can get more support and outreach, how you can get people to buy into what you're doing, and how it will enhance not only your relationship with the community, but the client's relationships with the community as well. So going to different, even if it's a small meeting, sometimes I go to meetings that only be 5 or 6 people, and then I'd be number 7. Just getting out and talking to people, passing out your information, and then eventually you might be able to get on their agenda at one meeting and be able to explain what you're doing. And that makes a big difference in how you get different things, get things done with your strategy. That's a great idea, the chamber.
Yeah, that's great advice, Deb. And Karen in the chat mentioning attending the Chamber of Commerce meetings too are excellent ways about, and I know we were talking earlier about kind of continuing to engage the community to keep awareness up and engagement up. So those are great avenues for pursuing that. So thank you both. Do folks have any more questions before we wrap up? Are there any thoughts from our team, the NNSC team, that we wanted to share before we break?
I just want to say that I appreciate everyone's thoughtfulness, and it's always exciting to get to see some familiar faces that I haven't seen in a while shouting out Project Longevity, and also some new faces. So I think that there's always ways to innovate within the work that we do, and it's great to have these forums to hear about some of the really good things that are happening. So I really appreciate everyone showing up and sharing information.
I just want to echo Lori's sentiments as well. The secret sauce of this work is relationship. And so it means a lot for folks to show up and participate and build community with each other, right? Sharing resources and items and tools with each other, right? There's a reason our name is national network for safe communities, right? Because it is a network. It is a network of folks, and all of you make the network work. So thank you for that.
Thank you both. Eric, I see your heads up.
Hey, yeah, I was just gonna add, this was great. A lot of people turned out. And just to be patient with yourselves throughout trying to, build up this strategy while you're in the strategy. Because the thing that we cannot forget is a lot of these individuals, right? Their lives have been, in chaos and in trauma and traumatic experiences for a long time, generations even, and it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out like that to remedy a lot of this is going to take some time. So I just wanted to just kind of make sure that we remember that, right, while we're implementing these strategies, and while we want these results and we want to, the quick turnaround and all of this stuff is cool, and I get it, and there is a recipe, and if you follow it, you will get the results. But one thing about, anything that we know about baking, it takes time, right? And so I just wanted to just remind you guys of that.
Thank you, Eric. That's important perspective, and I think meaningful given the sorts of folks who are in the room and the way that people are coming at the work. So thank you for that. Any last questions before we wrap up in a minute? Just a quick minute of housekeeping. All right. Just quickly share my screen. All right, so thank you all for joining us today and giving us your questions and thoughts and kind of joining the conversation with us. You can always reach out to me and the team at GVI Workshop at nnscommunities.org, or go to our website, nnscommunities.org/GVI Workshop, where we have recordings from all the sessions. So those deep dives I was mentioning earlier into legitimacy and police and support and outreach and project managers, all of that is already on the website with the slide decks and some written product. So you can learn a lot more there. But you can reach out with any questions. You could forward this information to anyone who's interested, anyone in your jurisdiction, and we'll be in touch about the next session and the next workshop and kind of evolving these gatherings as we go. But we hope to see you there, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.